Okay, here's one with a little bit of an odd showing to some people. What we're going to look at here is a people known as scientists against myths. I've shown a few different ones of these where they actually took just a round blob of stone and taking another stone that's harder than that and working it like a lathe, how they were able to end up making those strange stone bowls that have been seen in Gobekli Tepe in pieces of the ones that were left, and again in Israel on the Holy Land and so on, and then of course shortly after in Egypt, associated with one of the first pharaohs to try to get into pyramids and things like that, and then they ended up putting a bunch of those bowls in with his burial. And doing so, now you've got people trying to invoke things like lasers and aliens and all kinds of things, when it's just really those amazing Caucasians. It's kind of odd, but in a modern day, you'll find people that'll try to lean more towards the idea that maybe it's aliens, we're not sure, as opposed to, Caucasians, they had all kinds of crap going on. I still think that it's really amazing that before pottery they had stoneware. But then again, when I was a kid, I watched Fred Flintstone and they had stoneware. Perhaps some of these things they've been trying to show us possibly all along. But what we're going to look at here is her doing this job, working with granite by hand, using other harder stones, and make an inset corner. Because that's one of the main things that they show is, hey, here's this interior corner here, and how could they do this? How could they do that? Well, they've taken upon themselves to go, well, they probably kind of did it just like this, and end up making an inset corner. So let's look at this. He's basically using different types of stone. Whoops, I broke my brass hammer even, just with different types of stone. Chipping it out, gathering pieces. So now this is working with raw granite, solid granite. And they're just taking two different kinds of stones and working on it. Well, what's that? That's two different kinds of harder stones than granite. And in doing so, it's able to actually cause some damage to the stone and work at it. Kind of the opposite effect of if you took soapstone right now and tried to use it as an axe, how it would crush up against granite and just disintegrate the end of it because it's not as strong. But if you were to take a granite axe and end up hitting soapstone and limestone, it would work it. One thing that people probably don't realize is that the ancient Sumerians had a list of stone that was put forth and seemingly somewhat important whenever they did so, for they actually went through things like chalk and soapstone up to limestone, and in order listed quite a few stones that this one is harder than this one, then this one is harder than this one is harder than this one, and ended up getting to the point of corundum, which is right there under diamond. So they were well aware of what cuts what, and scissors, rock, paper, stone, who wins in this situation. And in fact, that's what they used to make all these diorite statues and so on. I'm no less amazed than any of you that are listening to this on how they made these statues and how incredible they are. But at least here's a showing of how these things happened versus an idea that you've got to introduce lasers and aliens into getting this thing. little bit of precision work there, just checking it out, making sure that it's plumb and square and everything, so somebody can't go, well, that's not quite an interior cut. Hours of work done, and there's an interior cut. Hopefully you can see that pretty good. But that's what's like in the interior of those incredible boxes that people try to say there's no way people did this. Now I'm in agreement that there looks like there was some giant spinning wheel that they used to help grind things away too. I understand that. I look at it, I see the bends on the rock, and I get that same thing. That's a far cry from aliens. Or that they had some type of lasers, or they had this, or they had that. They just had an intelligent mind and a want to do these things. And preemptive to the idea that they had copper and brass and bronze and iron eventually on doing it, they could just use a stone that was much harder than that stone and get this effect out of it. And it's what happened. And it's what happened whenever they made all these bowls and urns and things like that too. Sure, they took them and sanded them afterwards, polished them to an nth degree and all these type of things. And I do concur 100%. It is amazing. But it's just another showing of those amazing Caucasians from the Wayback Machine. People look for a lost civilization, and some of them we're staring right at and have no clue. You look at all the incredible things that the Egyptians were able to pull off, and it invokes a lost technology somewhere. It doesn't have to be in this situation either. It's in quite a few more. If you're wondering if you can get something that seems a little egregious to the point that you go, what? Turn around and look at the pyramids and go, okay, this was going on, but what? Yeah, so we get that idea too somewhat. Anyhow, just a quick showing here somewhat of people being able to pull off things that some people are trying to tout as impossible, all these type of things. Sure, I see more than just a little corner whenever they make all these and do everything else. I know that they used hole saws to start a lot of these, and then the corner just had to be rounded off and pecked in. At the same statement, it doesn't require lasers and aliens. It apparently only required those amazing Caucasians. Peace.